Hey y'all, Regina of byregina.com here again today with another hashtag Go Independent interview. Today we are out in Nashville, Tennessee, talking to Kelsey Baldwin of Paper and Oats. I'm so excited to get to talk to her. She is an amazing designer. She makes amazing printables, all this awesome stuff for infopreneurs, course websites, whatever. She's gotcha, and she's epic at it. But first, before we go, the corny joke of the day. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Okay, this one's good. Why would the shrimp not share his treasure? I'll let you guess. I'll give you some time. Because he was a little shellfish. Get it? Shellfish? Selfish? No? All right. You know what? I'm going to keep trying every day with these corny jokes, you guys. Whatever. Let's go to Nashville and talk to Kelsey Baldwin. All right, guys, we are here in Nashville, Tennessee, and as I told you, we are with the excellent, awesome Kelsey Baldwin. If you don't mind, will you just introduce yourself to everyone and tell them kind of what you do for a living?
I'm Kelsey Baldwin, and I run Paper and Oats, which is kind of has two arms. It's an online shop that sells printable planners, and then it also I do freelance work for clients, and I design and brand their digital products, so things like e-courses or e-books, things like that.
I love it. How did we meet, by the way? Was it on like Twitter or through a blog post?
I think I had found your blog somewhere and then like binged on it and maybe emailed you.
Yes, I do remember the email. You're such a delight to connect with. And then I looked at your site and your Etsy shop and I was like, oh, pretty. I was so overwhelmed by how awesome it was. So tell us, now that you're working for yourself full time, what does the majority of your income come from out of all that stuff that you do?
It's pretty much split down the middle, like half clients work and half my Etsy shop, and I also have everything on my website too.
Perfect.
But Etsy still brings in more than my shop.
And so the Etsy shop is kind of like passive income. People just download these things that you've already developed?
Yes.
Okay. And are they able to kind of like fill out these printable forms on their computer, or is it all stuff that they print out and use, or does it depend?
They're all fillable, so they can fill them in Adobe Acrobat or Reader if they want to, or they can just print them out and write in them.
Perfect. And what's the name of the Etsy shop? Is it Paper and Notes as well?
Uh-huh.
So people can check it out
Yeah.
online and see what I became obsessed with. Okay, so tell us, what is your favorite part of being independent now that you're independent?
I think the flexibility of having my own schedule to manage and
Absolutely.
having the freedom to choose different products that I can work on or different projects. So I think just having that flexibility and freedom and getting to make the business decisions myself.
Yes.
And not having to, my old job, they were really great to work with and I could have a lot of input, but it's fun to kind of be the one in charge and call the shots.
Right. So. For sure. Okay, so when did you, maybe it was at your old job or before that, when did you actually realize you wanted to work for yourself full time?
I think I've always wanted to,
Okay.
ever since I was little, but I didn't know what that would look like. My dad had his own business, so I was home with him sometimes, and I liked that, working from home and eating lunch whenever you want, stuff like that. But I didn't get into graphic design till college,
Okay.
so I kind of always assumed I'd do some kind of freelance design work, but I never really thought I would get into Etsy or like my shop and the printables and everything. That was kind of something I stumbled upon, so that's been neat to see that part grow.
What kind of led you down that path? Did you need something one day and you're like, there should be a sheet for this, I'll make it?
Exactly.
Is that what happened?
I was looking for a price matching sheet,
So
like way before Walmart Savings Catcher existed, I would do the old school price matching with like ads and grocery store newspaper stuff. So I was looking for a sheet that I could track all of that on a page because I would just write it out from scratch every time. And so I went on Etsy and I searched like maybe meal planning or something like that. And all these printables came up, which I had never even heard of, like that was a thing. So
right.
I was like, whoa. And I didn't really like the design of any of them. They were really girly and had a lot of like hearts and rainbows. And I was like, I just want something simple, clean.
Yeah.
And so I and I was kind of researching shops that were big in that space, like other shops that sold mostly printables and like how they did it and how many they sold and everything. So I was like, wow, people really are buying these. Yeah. And I feel like I could design them in a way that's not available right now. So.
That is the first thing I noticed when I landed on your Etsy shop the first time. I was like, I actually haven't seen such clean yet bold, like wonderful design before. So I totally think you are standing out in that space. So that's awesome. So you saw a need in one sense and filled it with your own work. And that's kind of just how the shop started. And was there a point where you kind of like trying to grow the shop into a full-time, like purposefully the whole time? Or was there a point that you just looked up and you were like, oh, I could do this full-time. It makes a lot of money.
Kind of both. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to grow it. I'm an organization like junkie myself. So once they started selling, I had a lot of ideas for what other types of kits and things I could make. So I knew I wanted to grow that. I didn't ever think I could like actually make a full-time living off of it. Mm-hmm. But that in combination with clients and freelance work, I'm able to make it work. I know. How wonderful. Okay, so how long ago was it that you quit your last job? I left in February. That's awesome. This year. So yay! I had done freelance. They let us do freelance, right? You know, while working there, which was cool. So I had a baby last summer, and I kind of knew during my maternity or my pregnancy that I wanted to be able to work from home once she was born. So I worked really hard to build up the shop and different printables in there, and then also build up freelance work and find new clients, and then was able to take the leap in February. So your child is very young, so I'm assuming she stays at home with you right now. Yes. What are your days like, working full-time and raising a child? I work during nap time and after bedtime. Okay. Mostly. So she's a really good baby, and I mean, she can sit and play by herself pretty well. So sometimes I'll work with her there, but most of the time I'll work while she's napping, or like 8 p.m. to like midnight is like my office hours that I joke. That's like my only guaranteed time. So I admire it so much. Like I only have godchildren, and I was watching them one day for my friend, and I was like, oh, this is great. I have 5 hours. That's it. I'll be able to get some work done. It's going to be chill. And I literally was not even able to open my laptop once. So I'm like, how do you do this every day? So that makes sense. So nap times, you're pretty productive, and then you just go crazy at night with those. Yeah. And I think knowing you only have those times to work during the day, you're a little more focused and less Facebook surfing. You're like, okay, she's going to wake up in an hour. So I have to finish this in an hour. I guess that makes sense. So tell us some of maybe your favorite portfolio items, favorite things that you've created thus far, either through maybe your printables or even just blog posts or things on your website. I recently switched all of my design services to focus mainly on designing for digital products. I used to do just any kind of design, really. Yeah. So my brother has a couple of e-courses out that I got to do the branding for, which was really cool. Okay. And that kind of introduced me to that whole world of courses and ebooks and everything. So those were really fun long-term projects to work on. And then I also, a few months ago, started my blog. Which talks about... Is it the Oat Bar? Yes. I love the Oat Bar. I love the name. I wanted to start one for a long time and just never really felt... I wanted to do it right and really have consistent posts and keep up with it. So I put it off forever, and then I kind of just went on Instagram one night and was like, this date, like a month from that, this date I'm going to put out a blog. I kind of forced myself. That's awesome. Yeah. So, but that's been fun to... It's kind of, I feel like, more of a journal for myself than... I mean, there are like tutorials and things like that on there, but a lot of it is also about being a mom and owning a business. And which is so trying important. To balance that. I love that. Okay, so with your brother's course, what's the name of the course? Or you said 2 of them? Yeah, he's got 2 of them. One of them is called Clarity Course, which helps people find and do work that they love.
That's awesome.
And then the other one is called Booked and Paid to Speak, and it's how to kind of break into the world of public speaking, which is what he does.
Okay, so. And just for those who will be curious, what's your brother's name so we can look him up?
GrantBaldwin.com.
GrantBaldwin.com. Perfect. So tell us now, I guess, about some of the challenges or what you would consider maybe the largest challenge that you came across in making the transition to full-time. What did you see as, like, difficult or maybe frustrating during the process?
I think a big thing I wasn't expecting was, like, kind of the loneliness and, like, isolation that comes with working by yourself from home with a baby, no other adults around. So I think I've had to kind of force myself to, like, get out there and meet other entrepreneurs and people like you, or I'm in a lot of Facebook groups that have been really helpful in finding communities there.
Super smart.
But once I found people like that, it was kind of like, oh, there's other people that exist that understand what I do, and I feel like a lot of friends don't totally get it. So
oh my gosh, yes.
It's nice to be around people who get it, and you don't have to explain what you do or why you do it or how you do it. So that's been something I wasn't expecting, but it's important, I think.
So it's mainly online communities that you've been able to kind of form and develop, or I guess take part in to kind of build those relationships.
Yeah.
Have you found, like, collaboration opportunities out of those groups and stuff?
Yeah, sometimes. I've met a lot of really amazing designers and other entrepreneurs that I've been able to work with and kind of form friendships with, and so that's awesome. That's cool.
I noticed that you and Jamie of Spruce Road did something together, which is another person that is taking part in the Go Independent series, which I'm so excited about. Yeah.
That's
fun.
Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Jamie. How did that happen? How did you guys get linked up?
Well, I kind of known her work for a little while and really, really loved it.
Yeah.
And followed her on social media. And then I enrolled in a course by Mariah, I don't know if it's Coase.
Mariah.
Coase?
Yeah.
Okay. So I joined her course, which she has a whole Slack group.
Yes.
Community or whatever for all the students in there, and I noticed Jamie was in there. And so I messaged her, and we kind of started talking. And, me and her and another girl, Phyllis Saw. She's an incredible designer, and the three of us have kind of formed a bit of a little friendship, unofficial mastermind.
Nice.
Really small, but
nice.
So they're fun to bounce ideas off of. And
gotcha.
Yeah, so Jamie and I did that webinar.
And what was it? Was it an InDesign webinar or?
Yeah, she does a monthly webinar called Lunch and Learn, which is really neat. So she teaches different, like, tutorials, mainly in Illustrator, but invited me on to talk some about InDesign. So.
Perfect. So was that the first kind of Lunch and Learn or webinar type thing that you had participated in?
Yeah, that was the first webinar I'd ever done.
And did it like?
Kind of nervous.
Were you? Yeah. I was so nervous the first time I did one. Did it kind of make you feel like you might integrate that into your own strategy, though, now that you've done one?
I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe down the line.
Tell us some of the, I guess, the most effective tools you have found to promote your business outside of, obviously, that webinar and collaboration. Are there other social media tools that work really well? How do you actually get clients?
I use Instagram most of all the social media platforms.
Gotcha.
So that's the main place that I hang out, but also some Facebook groups with other, like, female entrepreneurs. Those have been big for finding clients.
Good.
And then just referrals from other people.
Yeah.
Meeting people like you, or just reaching out to people that you admire or you want to work with maybe in the future but don't know what. Right. It would be, I think it's just beneficial to
establish some sort of relationship.
Yeah, even just, I mean, like I did you, just email and say, hey, I love what you're doing. We should work together sometime. I don't know what it would be, but...
But I was like, Kelsey, I want to interview her. That's definitely how it happens. All right. So tell us about some of the like tools that you use, software, physical tools, anything like that really help you run your business.
Well, since I'm a designer, I use Adobe Creative Cloud. I couldn't live without that. And then the other two big ones that I use are Asana and Evernote. Mm-hmm. So I used Asana at my previous job and kind of got into it there. And so I've used it for my business. I have a blog post all about how I use it.
Oh, nice.
If you're curious.
So, I am, because I use Asana.
Yeah. And then Evernote to just organize all my random notes and ideas and client stuff. So.
How do you manage your blog schedule? Do you have like an editorial calendar, or do you just kind of do what you do?
I just have a calendar. I have the Dream Job Business Planner, which is like a physical planner, which is really, really cool. You should check it out.
I shall.
But they have like monthly calendars in there, so I just use one of those. And I have posts. I post on Tuesday and Thursday, and I have little post-it notes.
Gotcha.
With different blog ideas. I used to write them in there, and I was like, erase them 5,000 times. So I have post-its. I can move them around and rearrange if I need to.
And are you kind of like, I'm assuming because of what you design you are, but are you kind of like a paper and pen type person? You like to be able to like write stuff down and move it around?
Yeah, I'm kind of both.
Yeah.
I have, like, if I'm writing a lot, then I'll do it on my computer, but for little notes and lists and stuff, I'll usually write it out.
So tell me about the role of, I guess, education in your business. It's like a two-part question. So first off, you said you started in graphic design in college. Is that actually what you studied in school? And would you recommend that to other people? And then two, you mentioned that you did Mariah's class, which is, she's the femtrepreneur.co. And I'm assuming you mean her class, your first 1K.
Yeah.
So tell us about educating yourself before you got into the role of graphic design, and now what you do, or what you consider a good investment now that you're in the role.
Yeah. Well, I went to college for graphic design, and I don't know, I worked with a lot of clients at the same time I was in college, and I feel like I learned way more
through actual experience,
like, real stuff than classrooms. So I wasn't a big fan of college. I feel like I could have learned all that stuff myself, but I know for some people that structure is necessary.
Yeah.
But since then, I have, I took Mariah's course, kind of still in it. I'm way behind on all of her lessons. But that's been really helpful in like building an email list and kind of helping me launch my e-course that will be out in the fall.
Which I'm going to be in if I can. And it's on Adobe InDesign.
Yeah, it's called the InDesign Field Guide,
and
it's all about teaching the ins and outs of InDesign.
I know. I'm so excited about it, for real.
It's kind of like a giant program that people are afraid to
overwhelmed
open.
by?
Yeah, I didn't really realize that.
Yeah.
And I'm in it like every day, and I used it a lot at my old job. And so, I've just noticed a lot of designers are like, I'm afraid to open InDesign. And so, it can be kind of scary, but I'm trying to like break it down into sections that are practical, like using actual tools that you would use and not learning
everything. I find that you can, with software that's as powerful as most of the Adobe Creative Cloud software, it seems like you can probably use like 10 to 20% of the tools and make epic stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's just so powerful.
Yeah.
For those of us who aren't really familiar with Adobe, will you break down those main products and maybe tell us what they might be best used for? So like Photoshop is one that people talk about a lot, Illustrator, and then InDesign. And it seems like designers use all three. What's the best, I guess, software for each type of project?
Yeah. That'll be a lot of what I start with in my course is talking about how to use what to use each thing for.
Gotcha.
But Photoshop is more for photos. So editing photos, retouching them, manipulating them, any kind of like imagery work, and everything in there it won't be vector. So vector means that you can scale it as big as you want and it'll hold its quality. So Photoshop, you kind of design it at the size it'll be at, and that you're kind of stuck with that. So
Do you use it for photo editing for Instagram or just in general?
Instagram, I usually just take them with my phone. Right. I'll use it for like product shots or something like that. Yeah. And then Illustrator is more for vector work. Okay. And so like logos or illustrations or icons or things like that. Okay. And then InDesign is for page layouts. Yes. And like anything, I always say anything with a lot of text or a lot of pages. Okay. So best for that. Yeah, I think a lot of people try to make like PDFs in Photoshop, like one page, like one file per page, and
doing that.
Yeah, and the text. I mean, trying to work with text in there is kind of a pain. So yeah, InDesign really is for anything with text and anything with multiple pages.
So if someone's doing an ebook or a printed book, you would definitely go that route. Yeah. When you're just making maybe like a single worksheet or something like that to go with your posts, could you use almost any of those programs, or would you still?
I would use, if you're just doing like a one-page thing, either Illustrator or InDesign. Okay. And InDesign, I think another thing a lot of people don't realize is you can pull in things from Photoshop,
which is super helpful.
Combine Illustrator and Photoshop to create layouts and things. So
that is so good to know.
Yeah, you can just drag and drop files, and then if you like update a Photoshop file later on, it'll automatically update in your InDesign file. So
take notes, somebody. Yeah. That sounds so cool.
I'll be in the course.
Oh, yay! Awesome. Okay, so and that's the InDesign Field Guide.
Yes, and you can sign up for more info at theindesignfieldguide.com.
That's perfect. So back to your brand really quickly. So it kind of seems, which is so awesome and interesting and wonderful to me, that you're really kind of narrowing down your freelance services to serve pretty much like infopreneurs, people who are creating ebooks, creating courses, and even your InDesign course would be a great thing for an infopreneur to possibly take if they're comfortable enough with computers and want to be able to create their own ebooks and worksheets and stuff like that, instead of having to pay every single time. Then that could be a great course, and then they'd be able to DIY their stuff. I love it. She loves us infopreneurs, you guys. That's really cool. Okay, so tell us how meaningful it is to you that you now work for yourself full time. What does it mean in terms of being a mom, really?
It's tough to balance the two. Yeah. I kind of joke sometimes that every day I'm switching constantly between like mom mode and business mode. Yeah. So it's a hard balance to maintain, and some days I'm really crappy at it, and some days I feel okay about it. So I think a lot of people are like, I haven't found the balance yet, but there really probably isn't a balance. So just take it day by day and do your best, I think.
Gotcha. My friend will always call me at some point during the day. I was like, I haven't spoken to another human, adult human all day. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I don't know what that must be like. Yeah, and I think from everyone that I've heard from it really is hard to just figure out some perfect system or balance. And it's funny because I think even those of us who don't have the wonderful excuse of kids and being busy, we still find some way to not find balance. I think that's just something that's difficult for everyone. But tell us this, if someone is maybe trying to get into starting their own business, maybe they're already working for themselves a little bit and they want to do it full time, and they are trying to balance major things like a family or something like that, just give us so what would be your first 2 actionable steps or tips for that person?
I think figuring out, if you're in that place, you probably already know sort of an idea of what type of work you would want to do or what industry maybe you would be in. But I think finding a way to set yourself apart from everybody else will help you in the long run. Yes. There's so many people that seem to do the same thing and present themselves and brand themselves in the exact same way. And so it can be hard to stand out. So I think finding a way, looking at what everyone else is doing and do it differently. Right. That's kind of my motto for my whole business. If I have something, I'm like, oh, I should do something like this. I'm like, well, there's, a million other people doing that. Yeah. Maybe I could do it a different way or put my own spin on it or try something different. So that would be the first thing, is figuring out how you can do something differently.
Gotcha.
And then I think establishing a good brand.
Okay.
And design. I'm a designer, so
yeah,
that's obviously going to be one of mine. But and I think there's a lot of cheaper ways out there right now to do that that don't require maybe hiring a designer like me, or but there's a way you can start with just what you have and still make something look good. Because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that your brand kind of creates trust with clients. So if it looks really not good and not put together, like, they're going to think that about you, even if that's not the truth. So I think having a solid foundation like that is important for building on that and gaining people's trust, especially when you're first starting out.
Definitely. I've been loving Squarespace lately to recommend to people. I've used it a few times myself to build a few different sites. But I feel like you really almost can't mess up a Squarespace site.
Yeah, that's how I feel. My site's on Squarespace. Yeah, and I always recommend it. I'm like, you can't make an ugly site in Squarespace. You have to work really hard. So
hard to do so. Yeah. Perfect. Well, I so appreciate your time today. Yeah. For those of you who have not gotten a chance to check out her site, actually, will you give us your site? And then you said Instagram is pretty much your favorite. Yeah. So will you give us your Instagram handle as well?
Yeah, my Instagram handle is Paper and Oats, and spelled out. And then my website is the same, paperandoats.com.
Perfect. So thank you so much for being here today. I'm sure everyone really appreciated all this great information. And we will be sure to catch you on the InDesign Field Guide.
Yes.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thank you.